welcome to another edition of the podcast. Today, I would like to talk to you about improving your chances of writing a novel that others will actually read. You see, one of the comments that I often get in with my writers and in the workshops and through coaching and so on is, I'm worried that no one will want to read what I write. So I go through all this effort, anywhere from 300 to 500 hours of writing, only to produce a novel that no one other than friends and family will want to read. So what do you do about that? Well, in the program that I offer, we test a lot, we validate a lot all along the way to improve the chances of strangers reading your book, because ultimately that's the test, right? Friends and family are going to read your story no matter what, and they'll think it's marvelous. But the real test is with strangers who pick it up, read it, and enjoy it, we hope. So how do you improve your chances of writing a novel that someone else is going to like? Well, it starts with your intention first. If your intention is to write a novel for you, one that you are interested in writing, and one that you simply want to share with friends and family, maybe put aside for the family archives, that kind of thing, then you really don't have to worry about this at all. It doesn't matter. All you need to focus on is writing the story that you want to write. But if your ambitions are a little larger, for example, if you think, wow, maybe I could make a few dollars from writing on a part-time basis, or at least cover some of my costs of writing, then you want to be a little more strategic in how you approach the whole novel writing business. So this is the one I want to focus on today, is looking at your novel as something that you're going to put out into the world so that strangers will read it. And as I say, hopefully they'll enjoy it and leave you lots of nice reviews and send you love letters and all kinds of stuff like that. So understanding your intention first is critical to the approach that you're going to take when you put together your novel. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as a writer, you need to be flexible. And what I mean by this is, suppose you really like specific subgenre of popular genre these days. Let's take science fiction as an example. Science fiction is a fairly large genre, but within that there are all kinds of subgenres that you can look at. For example, first contact, galaxy exploration. Like, there are all kinds of different subgenres that you can choose from. So if you're looking at this commercially, what you want to do is to go onto Amazon and actually look at all of those different subgenres and see which ones are trending. Where is the interest? What are people reading these days? So, and then you want to gear your efforts towards that subgenre. Let's just take an example and say First Contact is really popular these days. And so you would study the novels in that subgenre. You actually have to read a few as well. You can't just be guessing here. You've got to understand your audience, what they like, what they come to expect. But let's just suppose it's First Contact, and that's the one that's trending, and that's the one that is quite popular, but you're not a First Contact sci-fi writer. What do you do? Well, this is where you have to be flexible. If your focus is on big galactic battles and those sorts of things, that's great. And that's what you might be thinking you're going to be writing. But if people aren't reading that as much as they are First Contact, you need to be able to pivot and shift your focus to the First Contact. Now, of course, there might be huge, big galactic battles in that, but the focus will be on First Contact. So be flexible. Study that subgenre that's popular and see if that can still resonate with you and give you some guidance as to what kind of story to write. So that's the second thing, be flexible. The third is to generate story ideas. So in the workshops, in my program, I ask writers to generate at least 20 different story ideas. So this is important because quantity is more important than quality at this stage. What you want to find out is, from these 20, 30, 40 different story ideas, which ones resonate with readers who like that subgenre that you're working in. So you want to go ahead and generate all kinds of different ideas. And where do you get these ideas? I love headlines. So if it's science fiction, I'll go into the science and tech headlines and I'll look at what's coming down the road and see if I can work that into some kind of first contact story using that same example that I've been using so far. So you want to generate 20 of those ideas. And now this next step is super critical. Once you've got all of those ideas, you don't pick which one to write. You have to test this. You have to validate this. And so you need to send it out to readers who actually read that subgenre and get their view of it. So you take your ideas, you find people who like to read that kind of story, and you send them your ideas and you ask them to pick the top 3 that they find most intriguing. Not you, but the readers. So you might get a smorgasbord of different ideas because each one of us is unique and we like different things. But if you send this out to enough people, let's say a dozen different readers, you'll likely start to see some common ground around the different story ideas. So at the end of the day, once you've got your feedback, once you've tested your ideas, you should have 2, 3, maybe 4 of these that your readers or potential readers are gravitating to. These are the ones they like. These are the ones. So let's say that you've got 3 of these. Out of your 20 or 30 different story ideas, let's say you've got 3 that most readers are gravitating towards. So of those 3, now you get to choose. You know that all 3 are going to be popular. Okay, you know that all 3 because they've got that, you've got that feedback now. So now you can start to look at those and flesh them out a little bit more. And within those 3, let's say one just is head and shoulders above all the others, like it's super popular. That's the one to write. Don't try to outguess the market. Give the readers what they're looking for. So pick one, and that's the one that you're going to write. Now you have to do a check here. You have to do a mental check and ask yourself, is this really the story that I want to write? Is this the idea that I can run with? Do I feel excited about this idea? If you don't, then don't bother writing it. Find another subgenre, find something else that you can build more story ideas around and get some more feedback around. Because, if you're spending several hundred hours writing a story that you don't really like, it's going to show up in the writing and you'll be really disappointed with that. So a couple of things then. You have to pick a story idea that a lot of people are interested in, and you need to be able to get passionate about that story idea as well. So that's the third thing then, is to generate all these story ideas. The fourth thing then is to land on one of those that you feel good about, that you could see yourself writing. Then the next step in the program that I teach is to prepare a storyboard around that story idea. So a storyboard is essentially mapping out all of the critical plot points that you need in your story. So we use the Clockwork Storyboard. There are other storyboard tools that you can use, but the idea is to map out all of those plot points, right? The call to adventure, the rejection of the call, the point of no return, the first battle, the second battle, the turning point, the battle royale that comes towards the end, in the home stretch, and all of these plot points that you need in your story in order to create a really good page-turning novel. So that's the next step then, is to prepare your storyboard with plot points. So at this point, you're actually mapping out your story from beginning to end. Of course, it's missing lots of details, it's missing subplots, and it's missing all kinds of, themes and other things that might be in there. But at this point, you're only interested in capturing the bird's eye view of your story. And then what? You know what's going to come next. Once you've got your storyboard, you need to test it again with readers. See, we always want to validate what we're doing in order to make sure we're on track with what readers want to read. So you take your storyboard now and you share it with some of the readers in that subgenre that you're looking at. So if we're looking at the first contact example again, you want to now share that with those readers who are interested in first contact stories. So again, you're going to be asking the same kind of question. Does this work? Do you see weaknesses in here? Are there areas in this storyboard that I could make it more exciting or make it more interesting or what have you? Get their feedback. This is super important. Writing does not happen in a vacuum, especially if you're looking at any kind of commercial endeavor for your story. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. You need that interaction with real readers, not just mom, but real readers who are going to give you honest feedback and help you develop an awesome storyboard. So that's the next step then, is to prepare your storyboard and test it with actual readers. And then what? Okay, so you incorporate the feedback where it makes sense, you tweak your storyboard, and then you move on to a detailed plotting roadmap. This is what we use in the workshops. What we use in the writing program is a detailed plotting roadmap where now you are going to start to generate more about your characters and their motivations. You're going to be looking at plots and secondary plots and sub-themes and all kinds of things that go into a story. And the roadmap actually maps these out in detail for the entire story that you're going to write. So this takes a bit of time, and in the program that I offer, it's a lot of questions. So you're basically filling in the blanks, answering questions as you go along to build your detailed plotting roadmap. Now, once you've got that, once you've finished it, you can look back and at your story now, and you know exactly what's going to happen from beginning through the middle to the end. This doesn't mean that it's going to be carved in stone for the rest of your life. The writing process, any creative process, is such that as you go along, things morph. But essentially, you've got your roadmap, you know where you're going, you know what the story is about. So what do we do at this point? Yes, we test it again. We test it with other readers and writers. So with readers, you want to make sure that this is tracking, that they get excited about this kind of story, the readers in that subgenre that you're targeting. You may want to share it with other writers because writers understand plot points and tension and pacing and dialogue and characters and motivations and those other sorts of things. So getting a writer's feedback might also be helpful in polishing up your roadmap. The critical point here, though, is to test it. We don't do anything in isolation. Test, test, and test so that you can validate your story before you ever start writing. Can you imagine spending 400-500 hours working on a novel, thinking that this is what readers are going to like, only to find out that they don't? So the key here is to validate your idea, to validate your story before you put in that huge investment of time. Okay, so by the time you start actually writing your novel, you've got a validated story that you know is going to resonate with readers in your targeted subgenre. So this is no guarantee, of course, that it's going to be a bestseller or that lots of people are going to like it, but it certainly improves your chances that strangers are going to be interested in your story and pick it up and read it and give you an awesome review on Amazon and Goodreads and elsewhere. So just to recap all of these things then, this is how you can improve your chances of writing a commercial success. One is your intention. And if your intention is to focus on strangers, then you have to pay attention to validation. Second thing, be flexible. You might love science fiction or fantasy, but and within those genres, there are lots of little subgenres you can choose from. So choose one that's trending, that's popular, that people like. Third thing, generate at least 20 story ideas and validate them with readers so that you can come up with one that is really popular and that you feel passionate about. So once you've got that one story idea that you feel good about, that you know readers are interested in, then you prepare your storyboard with your plot points, you validate it again with readers, and then finally you build your detailed plotting roadmap that again you test with readers and some other writers as well who might give you better feedback in terms of structure. So those are the steps that you would take to improve your chance of writing a novel that will actually sell to strangers. I hope that's helpful. Go have a great day. And of course, if you would like any help with your novel, just send me an email, david@writeyourfirstnovelnow.com. Happy to sit down and have a chat and see what we can do together.